Hello, this is a quick video explaining how the HSC works for the New South Wales curriculum. And in this video I'm going to go through how moderation works and then how the ATAR is calculated. So the big question that we have with so many kids sitting the same course is, how do we compare them? How do we compare, say, biology assessment in School A with the biology assessment in School B? Because as you probably know, they're different. They might have the same trial exam, but it's unlikely, but all the assessments will most certainly be different. One might be a practical assessment for one school, and it might be a test or a written paper for another school. So how do you compare those? And to make matters worse, there are approximately 25,000 high school teachers in New South Wales who will all deliver a slightly different curriculum and different assessment, and approximately 70,000 students sit the HSC each year. In 2012, when I did this video, there was 16,570 students who sat for biology. So they learnt it for 2 years and then they sat the exam. Well, the common factor is that they all sit the same paper in October. They sit exactly the same paper, and the paper is marked by a group of teachers who've been carefully taught how to mark to the same standards. I'm not saying that there aren't errors, but in a lot of cases they're double marked. English is double marked, for instance. With maths, I've marked the 2-unit maths paper, and you go through and you mark a single question, and then randomly a tenth of those papers are checked. And if you have more than a certain number of errors, you have to go and remark the whole lot. So it's pretty consistent. So the Board of Studies uses the HSC exam to moderate the assessment marks, and this is where a lot of people, kids and parents, get very confused, and teachers get confused by this. And what this means is that the assessment marks, so they're the marks that the kids have done throughout the year with all their assessment tasks, their trial exam, their half-yearly exam if they had one, and all their assessments. Those assessment marks slide up or down depending on how well the class does as a whole on the HSC exam. And this is the concept that's quite tricky to understand. So here's my class. We've got Plankton, Mr. Crab, Sandy, SpongeBob, Squidward, Patrick and Gary. And I'm going to show you how this works. So here they are sitting for the biology exam, and I have spent 12 months through the 4 terms of Year 12 giving them some assessments. Probably about 4 tasks that I've given them: a practical, an exam, a hand-in assignment and a test, for instance. And these are their marks. So you can see they are in order. So Plankton's come first on 82 and Patrick's come last on 42. Now this is the most difficult thing. Those marks are not important at all. What's important is the rank and the gaps between the people. So you can see that Plankton and Gary are very close together. In fact, during the year, they might have swapped around. Gary might have done better on, say, the exam, and Plankton might have done better on the hand-in assignment. Then there's a little bit of a gap. Then there's quite a big gap down to SpongeBob. Further gap, these two are close together, and then a huge gap down to Patrick. Okay, but it doesn't matter. I could actually add 10 marks to all of those, as long as I did it to every single one, and it wouldn't make one iota of a difference. Okay, and that's what I mean by the whole set of marks slide up or down depending on how they do in the HSC exam. Well, let's have a look how they did do. So here's their HSC exam marks. And remember, this is where they're sitting this paper with the other 16,000 students. So Gary actually beat Plankton in the HSC, not by much. There was only 2 marks separating them in the assessments, but he's beaten him. He's got 90, and then Plankton's got 88. And then there's been a few changes here. Look at this mark here. SpongeBob's obviously done a lot of homework, and so's Patrick. So they've done really well, and they've gone right up in the rankings. And then Mr. Crab and Sandy and Squidward's actually had a bit of a shocker. Right, so they're all over the place, as you would expect. Different kids behave or perform differently in an exam. Some get really nervous, some really like exams. So how does this affect those assessment marks? Well, the first thing to realize is that the HSC is actually made up of 2 marks. So there's your assessment mark. This is all the work that you've done for the Year 12, and then there's the HSC mark. And that's how you perform on one day. And it's 50-50 between the two of them. So once we have moderated these marks here, we're going to find the average of the two of them. Alright, here's how the moderation works. The only marks that are going to be affected are these ones here. These here. Right, we're not touching the HSC exams. That's how they actually did perform on a test that we know is a standard across the whole state. So the first thing we do is find the maximum for the HSC exam. And what's going to happen is Plankton is going to get that mark because he came first out of the whole year in the assessment mark. So this is what will happen. Okay? Doesn't change his HSC exam. This is where people get confused. The only thing that changes is this assessment mark here. And they're going to slide up or down depending on how well the kids did. And you can see they did considerably better in the HSC than they did in their assessment. So these marks are all going to go up, which is really nice. The next thing we do is find the minimum, which is 50. And Patrick got the minimum in the assessment mark, so he's going to get that scale to 50, or moderated to 50, sorry. And then the last thing we do is make sure that the averages are the same. And I did this on purpose and made SpongeBob have the average so that you can see that that's going to become 74. And now all the gaps get matched. Okay? And I've done a linear one here, so it's not terribly difficult. So they're all going up by 8 marks. I don't think that would ever happen, that it would be so nice. But in this case, you know, Gary's is going to become 88, Squidward will go up 8, Mr. Crab will go up 8, Sandy will go up, everybody goes up by 8 marks. Okay, and that is all based on how well they did in the HSC exam. If they had all bombed the HSC exam, all those marks would go down. So one thing that I tell students is that it's all right to have a little bit of healthy competition, you know, whilst you're scrambling for the rankings up until the assessment period is finished. After that, you all need to work together to make sure that everybody does as well as they can in the HSC exam, because the better everyone does, the better everybody does. That's what's really important. So you need to have some friends left at the end of it after you've been, you know, squabbling over the half marks with your teacher. So can you see how those assessment marks have changed? They've all gone up by 8 marks. It looks like this. So the raw marks are the blue ones, and they've all just moved up 8 marks. And can you see it's kept the same shape and the same gaps and the same rankings. It's just that they're now in line with the rest of the state. And so now all we do is find the average of the 2 marks. So we go 90 plus 88, and then we divide that by 2 and we get 89. And you can see that because Gary beat Plankton in the HSC, they've ended up on the same HSC mark, and that shows more than any other thing that this system rewards the assessment side of it and the HSC exam side of it. So it's saying both are equally important. And you'll often find that if students actually swap places, they'll end up on the same mark if you've got 2 that are coming first and second. If we have a look down the line a bit, Squidward, because he didn't do so well in the exam, his mark has taken a bit of a tumble, you know, from his 85, because he was really close to these guys in the assessment, but he's 40 marks below them here. So he has taken a bit of a fall. However, if you think about it, if it was a purely 100% exam, he'd be getting 50 at this point. Here's another interesting one. SpongeBob was sort of doing okay. He was in the middle of the class for his assessment, and then he's really done well in the HSC, and that has pulled his mark right up. So even if you aren't doing so well in the assessments and you do really well in the HSC exam, your mark can go up. And then Patrick, you know, because he didn't do so well, like he might have had an assessment he didn't bother handing in and got 0 for, or he was late with it, did really well in the HSC exam, but it's pulled his mark up, but not to the extent of SpongeBob, who put in a bit more effort during the year. Now, I think it's a good system. The positives are students who work hard are rewarded, students who cram at the last minute are penalised, and there's no cheating by individual schools. So I often say this to the students, you know, I could be a really nice teacher and give you really easy assessment tasks. Apart from anything else, it would be terribly unprofessional, and I wouldn't be preparing you for the exam. But suppose, you know, I marked all the tests and I decided, oh, I'll just give you all an extra 20 marks just so you feel, you know, happy about and successful. That wouldn't make one iota of difference. Conversely, I could be really hard teacher and give you the hardest exams where, you know, nobody can do them and everybody gets 10%. That wouldn't matter either. Because it's all going to be those marks, those assessment marks are going to be moderated based on how you do in the exam. So if the school that's got really hard assessment tasks, if they do well in the exam, all those marks will go up. And the school that's got the really easy assessment tasks and they do okay in the HSC exam, those marks are all going to come down. So that's the positive about it. The other really good thing about it is that it's a dual system. It's not just 100% HSC exam. So you get to do your assessments. You've got to be good at both things. You can't just go in and do the exam at the end. You have to do well in your assessments. And the other thing is you are somewhat protected if you don't like an exam situation. You're somewhat protected because you've been able to hand in assessments, you know, for the whole year. The negatives are it's still heavily reliant on an exam compared to, say, Queensland system. And then there's the idea, this is, you know, lingering idea that another student gets your mark. I don't think that's a negative actually, and they don't really get your mark. You know, suppose you go into the exam, say you're in the middle of the pack and you go into the exam and you come first, you're still getting your first in the exam. That's not touched, that exam mark. The person who's come first in all the assessment is technically getting your mark for the assessments. Your mark in the assessments is also going up because you've done well in the exam. So there is that idea going around. It's not entirely true. So the HSC system rewards students who work hard on their assessments for 2 years and study hard and do well in the HSC exams, which I think is what you really want from a leaving certificate. And when a student gets their HSC, they get the certificate and then they get a record of achievement. You can see here, I don't know how well you'll be able to see this on YouTube, but this student's 2010, and they've got biology, chemistry, economics, advanced English, maths and extension 1 maths. They have their exam mark, they have their moderated assessment mark, and then this HSC mark is just the average of the two. This kid's done very well. And then that puts them in the performance bands, which I'll go over in a second. And then it also says that they passed their preliminary courses, and they have a content indoors course that they did, which was photography. That was just to make up their 12 units in year 11. So here's an example of a kid. This is a different kid. It's 2012. I've got biology, advanced English, extension 1 English, extension 2 English, mathematics, PDH, PE and physics. Altogether 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 units. It's done pretty well. Here's his examination marks: 82 in bio, 86 in English, 42 out of 50, because remember this is 1 unit in extension 1, 40 out of 50 in extension 2, 89 in maths, 82 in PE and 87 in physics. And these are his assessment marks. Remember, these have been moderated within the class. 82 for bio, so it's exactly the same. 84 in English. We don't know where this student came in the class for English or any of these courses. It doesn't tell us. 44 out of 50 for English Extension 1, 41 for English Extension 2, 89 for Maths, same mark. 82, same mark for PE, and 85 for Physics. And then these are just the averages. See this, 87 plus 85 divided by 2 is 86, and these are the bands that he's ended up in, which is all just what I said. Now that's another point. This mark here, this HSC mark, goes towards the ATAR. Okay, they're not really interested in any of this now after it's been moderated. It's this HSC mark, the average of how well you did in the exam and how well you did over the year goes to the ATAR. Okay, and then you get this sort of report here. So this is biology. This shows where he sits, and this is the distribution of all the students. So if you turn that around, turn your head sideways to the left, you can see that here's the middle of all the group. These kids have done better. There's the top runners up there, and these are the bottoms down here. And then it just gives you a generic description of the sort of things that this student can do. Okay, the HSC is in bands. So band 1 is between 0 and 49. It doesn't represent 50% of the marks. Now, we went this way probably, I think it's about 15 years ago now. A lot of people said it was very political. It means that the perception is that everybody passes because it gets up over 50%, but a lot of other countries were doing it, and just, you know, it's sort of like an A, B, C, D, E system, if you like. You know, where this is an A, B, C, D, E. That's an F. This one here is, you really don't know anything. Not very many kids, like 1% get in this band 1. So band 2 is the very bottom of it. If you get a mark between 50 and 59, it's an E. You really haven't done very well at all. You need to be up, probably in here is a good mark. Okay, is a pass. Seriously. So having a look at this here, also I picked this up off the internet. 16,570 did the biology paper. The median mark was 73. See, that was in band 4, remember? I said that that was where that was the pass. 6% of kids got a band 6. 21%, including our student here, got a band 5. 36% got a band 4. 27% band 3, and only 8% got a band 2. Okay? So that's another thing to really take from this presentation, is that that band 2 is an E. That's what you've got to think about it. It's not a pass mark. Getting 54% in the HSC is a terrible mark. It's not a pass. And there were 2% who received a band 1 in biology, and they could be, they didn't put pen to paper in the exam. That's a possibility. Now, the scaling principle is based on the philosophy that a student shouldn't be disadvantaged through their choice of subjects. However, it also takes into account that some courses have a greater strength of competition. So courses like physics, economics, advanced English, they'll contribute more to the ATAR than other courses. This is where another common misconception, although it's not entirely a misconception. There's this idea out there that a band 6 is a band 6. It doesn't matter what course it's in, and that is true. So if you get a band 6 in visual arts or drama, it's as good as a band 6 in physics. The physics one will be slightly better, but not enough to notice any significant difference. So if you've worked so hard that you are in the top 6% we saw for biology, if you're in the top 6%, then that's going to contribute really well towards the ATAR. And we're going to have a look how this works in the next couple of slides. There is no point doing physics if you can't do it. You're better off doing visual arts. If you're a good artist, do visual arts and do really well at it, and it will contribute really well. I've seen kids get over 90 in an ATAR from doing textiles, standard English, food tech. I think they had biology in there. I remember one kid in particular got a 91, 92, and she had all of these courses that people would think would be mediocre courses, but she nailed it. You know, a lot of them had major projects, textiles does, you know, and she got into that I can't think what it's called, but the major works display, like Art Express for textiles. You know, that's a significant achievement, and she ended up over 90 because of how well she did in the courses that she was good at. So it is no good going and taking physics and economics and advanced English if you can't do them. You will absolutely bomb your HSC. Conversely, if you're good at physics and you're good at advanced maths, do them, because they are easy marks to get if you're good at the course. So let's have a look back at the student that we were looking at, and here's the range of marks for biology, PE and maths, and where his mark lay. So what the ATAR people have to do is decide which was the better mark out of those three and rank them. Now it's easy to say, oh well, obviously the 89 was, because 89 is better than 82, but it depends on the cohort and depends how easy the paper was that particular year. So what you're looking to see is how far or how high up in the rankings he is. Can you see that this is probably the worst mark? This is probably a difficult concept. All these people were ahead of him. Not so many people here in bio. That's probably, yes, is the best mark, because there were this many people ahead. Then this one, without knowing the actual numbers, then this one. So that's what they do. They decide based on the ranking which is the better mark. So for example, an HSC mark of 90, which is band 6, in the 2012 HSC contributed the following marks to the ATAR. And I've just taken a random selection of courses here. So studies of religion 77, legal studies 78, all the way down to physics. Now here's the bizarre thing. These marks are between 0 and 100. This mark is a scaled mark between 50 and 100. So they do this quite strange thing where they take your raw marks, they scale them up to between 50 and 100 to report to parents and the school, then they scale them back down to go to the ATAR. So you would expect this mark to drop. Okay, this is a mark between 50 and 100. It's got to be all stretched out to go between 0 and 100. It would be unusual if it didn't drop. So this one here drops, say, by about 13, by 12, by 10, by 5, by 4. So this is where this idea comes from, that physics and economics scale better. They do contribute more to the ATAR than other subjects. That is true. Okay, they're considered to be more rigorous courses. But we need to put this in perspective in a number of areas. Firstly, let's have a look at, say this kid did physics and got a 90 as opposed to doing visual arts and getting a 90. They're 10 marks better off. That's not 10 ATAR points. Remember, there's 5 subjects all up. I need to divide that 10 by 5 at most. By taking physics over visual arts, your ATAR is going to be better off by maximum 2. But there's another thing to consider here. If you're that good that you can get a physics mark of 90, do physics. Seriously. Okay, because at this level, yes, it's contributing its head off. If you're really good at visual arts and you can get a mark over 90, you should be doing visual arts as well, because you might be able to get a higher mark than 90 in visual arts, in which case it will swamp physics. Okay, because part of visual arts, I think it's 50%, is your major work. But I think the more important point is, what if you're not good at physics? You know, suppose you take physics because you heard that it's great for contributing to your ATAR and you're expecting to get this great result, and you can't get a 90 for physics. Suppose you actually managed to get a pretty reasonable 66. You know, that's a band 3. It's not a bad mark, you would think, 66. Well, it contributes 48 to the ATAR. So imagine if you're pretty good at visual arts, but you've heard that it doesn't scale as well as physics, and therefore you take physics, but you can't really do it, and you get a 66. It contributed 48 to your ATAR, whereas had you done visual arts and done well, you would have got 76. Can you see what I'm talking about now? Take the subjects that you're good at. The ATAR is calculated by, you get the best 2 units of English are kept, and the best 8 other units, and all other additional units are discarded, which brings us back to, you know, should you take 12 units for the HSC or drop to 10? Yeah, you need to weigh it up. Speak to your teachers, talk to your parents. If you are a person who freaks out in exams, keep the 12. It gives you a buffer in case you blow one of them. If you're a person who likes to have extra time to prepare and you're pretty confident with all your exams, maybe 10 is okay. That gives you, you know, an extra periods at school for free periods. If you're just going to spend them playing cards, quite frankly, I'd take the 12 units. I guess, you know, as a teacher of 25 years, I don't know that I've come to any great conclusion about this. Most kids drop to 10. Some of them that's detrimental because they, you know, come to me then at the beginning of year 12 and they say, I can't do this subject that I've kept. And, you know, they've wrecked their HSC at that point. Had they kept the other, you know, 2 units rather than dropping it and being so keen for their free periods, they would have been able to drop the nasty subject, you know, that they've kept on with and that have had a backup. Anyway, the 10 units that are decided to be the best 10 are added together and they give an aggregate, which is a mark out of 500, and that's what I used to get, well, what I got when I was at school. So up to, I think, 1990 or something like that, they gave a mark out of 500. And the magic number for the mark out of 500 was 400. You needed 400 to be a doctor. That's what everybody was sort of aiming for. 380 to be an engineer. It was before moderation, and it was before all the bands. So if you got a mark of 54 in physics, it actually probably wasn't so bad. That was a pass mark. That was a C. So the aggregate, and it's the same system, so it's the same mark that if your parents may have got a mark out of 500, well, that's what they got when they added up their best 10 units and they received that mark. What happens now with you guys is then that mark of 500 is changed to an ATAR, and then we just look up a table for it. The table changes every year, but it's very similar. It's like this. So you can see 2000 through 2012 here, 2009 through 2012. So where's my magic 400? Oh no, there's the 90. So an ATAR of 90 pretty much got you into engineering. You needed about 380 to get into engineering when I was going to school. And here's the magic mark for the 400 that I was talking about, and that's equivalent really to a 95. Though some institutions will require 97 to get into medicine. Although I think you can get into some universities with a 95. So that's an easy, you know, you just add these marks up and then you just use the table. I'm going to show you how that works. So we're coming back here to Matthew, and he has his Advanced English Extension, Extension 2, Maths, Physics, Bio and PE. And I've worked out his scaled marks here. So his Advanced English, his mark of 86, is contributing 38.2, that's each unit. Okay, so it's really 76. It's contributing 76 towards the ATAR. His Extension 1 English is contributing 37, so he actually did better. Can you see that? He did better in his Advanced English. And his Extension 2 is contributing 37, which is pretty good too. His Maths, because that was his highest mark, is contributing 39. But look at this. This is the little one that's the little sneaky one. He got 86 in physics, not as good as 2-unit maths, and it's contributing more. But how much more is it contributing? About 2 marks is all. And bio here, the 82 for bio and PE, this particular year, there was a bit of a difference, 34 for bio and 31 for PE. That's just to do with the cohort. That means that this wasn't a particularly strong mark that particular year. You know, a lot of kids did better than him. So when we go to add this up, he's got to keep his 2 units of English here, and then his next best 10, which will be all of these and not PE in this case. So it'll get knocked out. We add it all up, 380.7. So when we look at the ATAR, aggregate to ATAR table, 380.7, it's a little bit more than 90, and he in fact got 92. So that's the end of the presentation. I know this is tricky to understand. You might need to listen to it again. There's 2 concepts really here. There's the moderating of the assessment marks and how that works. Really fair system. Get together with your friends, if it's students listening to this, get together with your friends after all the assessment's done and make sure that everybody is studying hard to that exam. Do past papers and everything and do as best as you can in that exam. The second thing is about getting the best ATAR that you can. That does come partly from choosing courses that are best suited to you, not for your friends. Choose strong courses that you can do well in. You know, don't pick this. There are subjects like the construction subjects, which are ATAR subjects, and you know, they don't contribute well to the ATAR. That might not be important to you, but if you do want a strong ATAR, you really need to be having a mix of subjects that you will enjoy, that you can do well at. If you are good at music, take music, especially if you can nail a performance. Like I've seen kids who've got, you know, 60s and 70s for every single course and 97 for music. Like, why wouldn't you be doing that? That is contributing its head off towards the ATAR. So take the subjects that you are good at and strong at, that you can get good marks in. That's probably the two main messages. And you know, the HSC, the third message is, and this is especially as a parent who's had, you know, kids do it 3 times, it's a tricky time. It's a time of a lot of stress. So be kind to yourself. Don't spend all day, every day studying. You know, get a life. Make sure you go out with friends. Make sure you relax. Make sure you go to the movies. Don't do that all the time. Set up a study timetable and work hard, but also put it in perspective. You know, your ATAR won't mean the end of your life. Okay, it'll actually only mean the beginning. And if you don't get what you need, there are other ways into university. So that's it from me. All these tables are available online, so you can actually look them up for 2015 HSC if you want to. You just Google 2015 ATAR tables. So they are readily available for anybody who wants to look at them. This particular table that's showing at the moment is table 8, and the other one that I used is table 3, which gives you the scaled marks for every single HSC course. You do have to do a little bit of guessing with that particular table because it doesn't show you every single mark. So it might show you the 50 percentile, the 75 percentile, and the top 10%. So you've got to sort of, you know, figure out roughly where you are, but you can use it to figure out, you know, how well you need to do in a particular course or your courses to do well in your ATAR. So good luck with your HSC.